So my liberation and my creation of this space that led to people's liberation actually began to trap me. So everybody else's liberation was my prison. And as the years went on, particularly when I was living at Mission Control as well, which was for 9 years, I was throwing a play party every weekend and living in the space where it was happening. My bed was in the coat check. So, of course that is going to affect me. Of course it reached a point where I was just so sick of it. I was just like, I don't want to even see anybody's boner. I'm so over your boners.
There's something coming over me. I never ever felt so free. I'm flying out the energy. Yeah, I'm feeling kind of crazy. Everything's so amazing. Yeah, I jump so high. I hit the sky. I can't believe I'm so happy. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Never thought I could be so big, but it's so good. Yeah.
I'm Sammy Amounts. This is Happy Slut. Welcome back, Pinecones. I have a motherfucking legend of a guest for you this week. Have you heard of Mission Control and or Kinky Salon? If you've been anywhere in or near the sex-positive community in this world in the last 25 years, you've probably heard of one or both of those. They were both founded by the same person, this incredible, magical mermaid of creativity and playful expression, Polly Superstar. Polly Superstar is somebody that I came across a few years ago when I started getting serious about building out my Substack and writing more. I found their Substack, Writing with Mermaids, and I just loved it right away. The way they write about writing and creativity and how you hold your creativity in your body. And so the only way to bring out the stories inside of you is to give your body a sense of safety so that you can be free to express. It just really resonated with me. I had no idea that they had also founded Mission Control and Kinky Salon. Now, if you've never heard of these things, I'll tell you what they are. Mission Control is a San Francisco community of consent-based, sex-positive, creativity, educational, playfulness, communication, a culture of inclusivity, of whimsy, of a freedom of sexual expression and freedom of expression in general. They have a building in San Francisco where they host these absolutely wild, artistic, immersive sex parties and kink parties. And when I was in the Bay Area last month hanging out with Dixie DeLatour and all of her friends, everybody was talking about Mission Control. Kinky Salon, I've actually been a member of their community for the last few years. They are a global movement that promotes sexual liberation and playful creative expression. They host immersive experiences all over the world. When Polly released their memoir a few years back, they did a world tour going to all of the kinky salons across the globe promoting the book. And speaking of this book, I cannot recommend it enough. Polly is an incredible writer, and their life has been so interesting and colorful and unique, from their upbringing with very sexually liberated parents in London. They were raised with zero sexual shame, thinking that we are in a post-sex negative world. And then they got out into the real world as a teenager and an adult and realized, oh my God, there's this thing called patriarchy. And actually, nobody's as liberated as my family is. And oh my God, I need to help these people. And they write all about that and moving from London to San Francisco at the age of 25 and working as a latex fashion designer, having a whole career doing that for years and years before starting Kinky Salon, before starting Mission Control, and having a 25-year career producing these whimsical, wild, immersive, artsy sex parties. Polly is so cool. They've gone on from doing all that to now living in Las Vegas and hosting writing retreats where they help you get in touch with your body, feel safe in your body. You sit in hot springs, you do yoga, you eat amazing vegetarian food that they cook, and you write. And I'm just such a fan of the fluidity, the creativity, the intelligence, the refusal to fall into any of the pre-planned tracks that the world tries to lay out for everyone. Polly is really a pioneer, a revolutionary, a sexual culture revolutionary. In fact, that's what their book is called, Polly, Sex Culture Revolutionary. So I want you to get that book because it tells all the stories that I don't go into in the interview you're about to hear. I really recommend going to Polly's personal website, pollysuperstar.com, and buying their book. You can buy it directly from Polly. They'll sign it for you and they'll ship it to you themselves. Don't buy it from Amazon. Buy it from Polly themselves. Go get that book. It will leave you feeling inspired. Just the first few chapters have got me so fired up for the work that I'm doing. Truly, we all are standing on the shoulders of giants in the work of dismantling patriarchy and reclaiming our freedom of expression, be that creative expression or sexual expression. And Polly's one of the giants whose shoulders I'm standing on. So you can tell I'm a little flustered. We just finished the interview and I'm recording this intro after. And I feel like I just got to spend an hour with a true revolutionary that has done so much work to push the needle on helping us sweet, tender little humans expand into the bright, beautiful, artistic, sexual, creative beings that I think we were born to be. Here is Polly Superstar. Polly Superstar, welcome to Happy Slut. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, great to be here.
I am such a fan of yours. You're like royalty in the Bay Area sex positive scene.
As an English anti-monarchist, I don't like being called royalty, but I will accept that I worked very hard in the Bay Area, establishing a bunch of scenes and experiences that exploded and still continue to this day, 25 years after I started them.
Yeah, I was just in San Francisco last month hanging out with the sex party people and everybody was talking about mission control. Everybody, like a new generation is carrying on the mission of control.
It's amazing. I am so inspired by these kids. I can't even tell you. And this is really the third generation. So I was the first generation and then it was like taken over by a group who turned it into the nonprofit. And now the latest group has bought the building.
Wow.
So in the Bay Area, that is no small feat. And I'm not even involved in mission control anymore beyond being like a mentor and an advisor. But I'm not in the day-to-day running of mission control and I haven't been for a long time.
Right. But you set the tone, and these parties aren't just sex parties or kink parties. These are fully immersive, artistic experiences. It's so much more than a sex party or a kink party. What you created and the culture that you created is whimsy maxing. It's art maxing.
I love that. Whimsy maxing.
I'm
going to use that.
You should use it. Credit Liz Plank. Liz Plank came up with that. We love her. But yeah, I feel like you're one of the original whimsy maxers. So
I'll take that.
Things have changed in your life, though, in the last few years. As recently as in the pandemic, you were still producing events and doing some, what sounds like pretty unique and incredible virtual kink events.
Oh my God. The weird shit that we got up to in the pandemic was so hilarious.
Do you have any anecdotes that you want to share from that before we get into the meat of this interview? Because I'm so curious.
I mean, so, as always, Kinky Salon is a themed event. And so there's always some element of interactivity and kind of artistry. So we just translated that into like a multiple Zoom room event. Well, multiple Zoom room events. We did dozens of them in the pandemic. It was really the thing that kept us all sane, having this creative outlet. And so like you would go into a room and there would be something happening in there. Each room was hosted by either a person or a couple of people in their little pod, you know, and they would have themes. So for example, we had one that was a haunted house. And so you go around all of the rooms and you would come in contact with various ghosts or demons, and there was a storyline that was unfolding underneath. There was one, and they would make you do things like you would walk into one room and, oh my,
hello, Kitty.
hi, Midgie.
Hello,
You come to
Kitty.
say hi. Okay, that's a little distracting.
We love a cat cameo on Happy Slut. We welcome cat cameos.
Yeah, and so there was this one where you walked into the room and there was a demon in there, and he would say, "Get down on your knees," and like would top you. This demon was basically topping you from, you know, the hell. And then we had a whole play space area where you could go and you could see other people, and it was like all kind of like, you know, everybody just getting their freak on in all the little screens. And of course everyone's dressed in costume. Everybody's got their you know, ghost costumes, their Victorian lady costumes, whatever they were.
I love it.
And then there was an ectoplasm explosion at like midnight or something. There was this like crazy where one of the scenes kind of went big, and it was just like this one person being attacked by a ghost, and it was just all like with ectoplasm. So it was just like so ridiculous.
It's
it was so
absurd.
ridiculous.
I love it.
It really did. It kept us sane.
Yeah, we all needed things like that to keep us sane in the pandemic. I wish I'd been a part of that community then. So let's talk about, though, some of what has happened since you left Mission Control and Kinky Salon. After 25 years of doing this, what started to change for you? This was such a joyful enterprise, it seems, for you for such a long time. What made you decide to pack up and leave and start something new?
Oh my gosh, there's so many pieces to that. I often say that people think my life's work was Kinky Salon, but actually my life's work was learning how to let Kinky Salon go. So everything that I created, all of the events, the community, everything was so nourishing to me and so fulfilling. And so many people would say how grateful they were and how, you know, I would have this like constant feedback, but it was so much hard work. I mean, I worked so hard to the point at which it's like not healthy. And I didn't take care of myself. I didn't take care of my body. I didn't take care of my own creative spirit. And so I ended up getting really burned out, as people often do in these kind of scenes, because I tell you, nobody's making money off this, you know, unless they're like doing something on a next level scale, which I always was really hesitant to do because I know that those size of parties of about 100 people is the sweet spot. And any event producer will tell you that that is not the kind of scale that's going to earn money unless you charge, you know, $500 a ticket. And I wasn't willing to do that either. And so there was a lot of like putting a lot of energy into it and living on people's feedback. Basically, that's what kept me going all those years. I mean, we're talking about 25 years of running events. That's a long time, you know? I'm ready for a change. And, you know, I'm also like not getting any younger. And sometimes we would be, especially when we were in other cities, like Mission Control is easy because Mission Control has everything set up. You can just arrive and it has all the support that you need. But other cities don't have that luxury. So we would sometimes be setting up in a warehouse that we would literally have to build. So we would load in at 12 noon and then have the party and then load out by 6 a.m.
Whoa.
And I just don't have the stamina for that shit anymore. Leave that to the kids. You know what I'm saying? I'm done. So And especially after the pandemic when, we went online for the pandemic and really put a lot of energy into that. I also created this weird kind of marketplace during the pandemic as well, where all of the artists and weirdos who are part of Mission Control and Kinky Salon, who, get resources from it, like the burlesque performers and the DJs and the people, like I made a marketplace for them to sell whatever they wanted to sell to people in this weird pandemic space. So people were getting like live shows, they were getting like whatever it was. Like some people did fitness as well, so they were doing like Pilates classes, and some people did like music lessons, and I created this whole marketplace. So I was really busy in the pandemic just supporting the community and making sure that everything kept going. And then when the pandemic ended, there was like this moment of choice, okay, so let's look. I could just take a step back and see what happens. And I took a step back and just watched as it was like, yeah, this doesn't have to be as ferocious. My energy doesn't have to be as ferocious anymore, Like I can be calmer and see what happens. And I stepped back another step. And it's just slowly over the last few years, I've just been taking little steps back. And, I still throw a kinky salon every now and again. I'm still involved. I was just like, I saw a fork in the road, and the fork that I chose, I was like, my vision was always this global network of sex positive communities that were about arts and creativity, really healing the relationship of sexuality to culture, right?
Yes, that's what I love. You wrote in your book, I highlighted this quote, "We live in a shame-driven culture, and it's used as a means of social control."
Mm-hmm.
And then I think about mission control.
Mm-hmm.
and it made me think like, oh my God, like it's all about getting people out of their shame and into their pleasure, into their fun. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and you wrote something about how you just knew intuitively that humor and like absurdity were the keys to making sex parties feel accessible and not intimidating.
Yeah.
And I just, yes, I love that. The creativity of it, I think, is what has made it such an amazing, popular, long-lasting thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I guess I just saw that like, hey, you know what? I actually did that. I can actually check that off my list of things to do. The global community of sex positive events, thousands of people around the world, like hundreds of events, hundreds and hundreds of events. And I'm like, I think I can check that off my to-do list now. I can start focusing on other things, like expanding what it is to be me, to be Polly. Like, who am I? Like, rather than defining myself by what I do.
So, who are you, Polly? For all of my straight and bi men listening and my gay and bi women listening, everybody who has sex with women and wants to do better, I've got a product for you. Have you heard of Kenneth Play? He is an Adonis of a man, and he has put together a video course teaching others how to please women the way only he knows how. I have personally had the pleasure of spending an intimate evening with Kenneth. I don't think I've ever had a first-time sexual encounter with somebody that was just 100% pleasurable. There was never a moment of pain. There was never a moment of meh. He knew my body better than I knew my body. He found pleasure spots in me that I did not know I had, and he made me come many times. I have gifted his web course, Beyond Satisfied Pro, to lovers of mine, and in every case, they have become better lovers as a result. And now I would like to gift this to you with a 15% discount. Go to kennethplay.com/closeted. That link gets you 15% off Kenneth's Beyond Satisfied Pro course. This is just for my listeners. Trust me. No one regrets being great in bed, and this course will get you there. KennethPlay.com/closeted.
You know, if you read my memoir, then you definitely get a closer look into the background of who I am and my history and my life and my passions. I'm an artist. I went to art school. I studied art. I always wanted to be an artist. And then I really got disillusioned when I went to art college because there was a goal of what you were supposed to accomplish as an artist. Like you're supposed to have gallery shows and do. And I never really related to that. I always knew I wanted to be an artist, but I never could relate to that idea, you know?
Yeah, the snobbery, and it's just like this elitism and this snobbery, and I think it's part of how capitalism ruins art.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I was always drawn to subculture.
Yeah.
Because subculture is not driven by capitalism. And the idea of like creating art as an artist in subculture is a completely different ball game from the like traditional like path you're supposed to go on after you go to art school. So I just felt like I made sense in sex culture. Like I was like, oh, this is where I belong. Like I don't want to be like making art in the art gallery. I want to be on that stage with a bunch of gimps, you know, like shining a flashlight out of my pussy, you know? That's what makes sense. That's what made sense to me in the 90s.
Oh, is there a photograph of this?
You know, blessedly, so much of the 90s, I'm so glad that we did not record. So much of what I've done, of course, my whole career has been without cameras. So we've never allowed cameras in Mission Control. We've never allowed cameras at Kinky Salon. So much of what we've done has just never been recorded.
Yeah. And there's a beauty to that you had to be there. You had to be there.
Yeah.
And when you were there, you were fully present because you were not on your phone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Magic.
There weren't even phones at the beginning.
Right.
We didn't even have
Like at
social
all.
media at the beginning. When Kinky Salon started, I printed out flyers and handed them out at clubs because that's how we did it.
So you've left ongoing leadership of these huge institutions that you've founded. What are you focused on now?
Well, these days, I am really excited about my new direction, which is focusing on writing community, but it's still perverts and weirdos, right? It's still the same community. You know, Kinky Salon, like you say, isn't just about sex. It's about art and creativity. And in fact, I would even argue that sex is just one of the ways that people express themselves, right? At a kinky salon. And so because we give people permission to express themselves in that way, a lot of people get single-minded about that. But actually, that's not the core of it. The core of it is freedom. The core of it is liberation. Do what you want. You want to fuck, that's fine. But that doesn't mean that sex is the goal or sex is the focus. There are parties that are, of course, are sex focused. Yes. And they always joke that Kinky Salon is the sex party you go to and you don't get laid. Which I always thought was hilarious. So now a lot of those original things that I used to like really enjoy, that idea of creating a safe space, of creating safe for self-expression, those tools and those skills still apply to writing retreats.
You've been doing writing retreats. Yes, this is so exciting. And they're called Writing with Mermaids, which I love because I love mermaids and they're so magical. I'm interested to know, what are these parallels like? And if we could get into specifics, like what are the kinds of things that you would do in your parties to help people feel safe and included and welcomed that you're now bringing into your writing retreats?
I mean, setting the container is always the first thing, like creating a safe space. For example, not allowing cameras. You know, that's a really good first step. There are no cameras in my retreats. So you know that you're going to be unrecorded, that you're going to be able to feel safe and feel like you can express yourself in your writing without worrying that someone's going to be judging you or whatever. Like you're just doing your thing. And so that's one way of doing it. But it's more than that about the specifics of the tools and the way that I do things. It's more about just the general, because these days, for me, it's not about systems. It's about me. I'm the host of the retreats. There are maybe 10 people there. So it's about my skills as a facilitator, as a space holder that has really translated really well into these spaces. And just like encouraging people to not have shame, encouraging people to speak their truth, to explore, to talk about what they want to write about. Like even when we're talking about like, okay, I want to write a novel, for example. Well, you say those words because as we know, if you don't talk about your fantasies, they never happen. So those kinds of things are translating across into this space, that sense of like explorativeness, of freedom, of adventurousness, of creativity. And not everybody who's writing is talking about sex. It's not erotic writing retreats. So some people can do some stuff like that, but it's more about just the rawness of humanity.
Oh, I love that. I see such a connection between sexual freedom and creative freedom. Like, I think they spring from the same well inside of us. I'm really interested in. You had such an unusual upbringing, and you go into it in great detail in your book. But just to give listeners an idea, like your parents were not the average.
They were not normal.
They were not normal. They raised you without sexual shame.
Yes.
And that's and I, you know, I'm sure things weren't perfect. And there were problematic moments, as there always are in families.
Absolutely.
But to be raised as a young woman in the 70s and the 80s without sexual shame feels like such a revolutionary way to be.
Yes, I was raised with the idea that those things were a thing of the past.
Yeah.
And so when I got older and learned, I was like, oh shit, everyone's really struggling with this stuff. Like feminism, for example, the idea that women are equal to men in like the way that our minds work and or that we deserve equal rights, that we're people. You know, that's basis of feminism is that women are people, right? I'm like, oh, wait, that's not real. That's just an idea. that was a hope, actually. And like the backsliding, particularly in the last few years, right, of these ideas, like I was horrified. So it was like my awakening was learning the shame and the struggles that other people have in their lives. You know,
you had a patriarchal awakening.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh shit, I thought this was done. I thought what is this 1950s bullshit going on here? Yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That must have felt like such a grave disillusionment, and like, what is this world that I thought I was living in? It doesn't exist except in this little bubble.
Definitely. The space of time between my father's death and me leaving to come to America was some dark years of coming into adulthood.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I know that you're not interested in talking about your personal sex life, so we won't get into that, but I am interested. Well, if you want to change your mind, I'd love to hear about it. But I am interested in how your relationship to sex and sexuality has changed through all of these experiences. Like, you kind of started out as this really free, bold, ballsy, fake it till you make it. I'm going to wear the little latex dress to the Folsom Street Fair on my first weekend in San Francisco and like make a bunch of contacts. I'm going to live in the back of my studio and make it seem like I've got money when I don't, you know, and you were also having fun. And you know, there's this one anecdote that really stuck with me in your memoir where a guy you had a one night stand with asked you to have anal sex, you consented, and then he said he was going to the bathroom, and then he fucking left, and you ran out to be like, where are you going? And he said, why would I want to stay, slut?
Correct.
I think I would have cried for the next week if that had been me as a young woman.
Mm-hmm.
But what you wrote, you were like, it upset me, but I didn't feel like I'd done anything wrong. I didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
ashamed. And so like, has that attitude remained? Has it shifted? Has your relationship with sex deepened? I'm really curious about how all of your experiences coming to this burnout with producing these big events and taking your focus and putting it into this like concentrated burning ember of helping to midwife other people's creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Like how has that all affected your relationship to sex?
Oh, well, I think that everybody especially women, our relationship to sex changes over the course of our lives. I'm postmenopausal now, so that shifts everything in a sense as well. But as well as those kind of like ebbs and flows that we all have naturally, I want to point out the idea that, like, yes, I have been this bastion of sex positivity. I create spaces where people can explore, can adventure into their own eroticism. And I have loved that for the whole time I've been doing it. And there's no doubt that it has affected me, like sex workers and how their relationship to sex is affected by work. Like my work was sex. And although it wasn't me actually having sex, it was still my relationship to sex and my relationship to my community and my relationship to my partners. It was all enmeshed in mission control. So it was very confusing for me. So my liberation and my creation of this space that led to people's liberation actually began to trap me. So everybody else's liberation was my prison. And as the years went on, particularly when I was living at Mission Control as well, which was for 9 years, I was throwing a play party every weekend and living in the space where it was happening. My bed was in the coat check. So, of course that is going to affect me. Of course it reached a point where I was just so sick of it. I was just like, I don't want to even see anybody's boner. I'm so over your boners, but at the same time, I couldn't help but see the positive effect that it was having on people's lives and the sense of community and the sense of self coming into oneself. And yet that irony of my own journey actually feeling constricted, feeling trapped, because I was over it and I couldn't break out of it because it was where I lived. It was how I earned a living, and so I was very, very trapped in it for a while. And it was only once I actually moved out of mission control that I started to get that perspective back on everything again and find my joy in it again.
So when you moved out of the building, which first of all, like anybody living in their place of work for 9 years would, I think, be very sick of it. Like, I don't care where you work. You could work in like a toy factory. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Santa's elves are sick of that fucking place. Like the dedication. I mean, you really immersed yourself in this world that you had created.
It was my entire life. I had nothing else. There was nothing outside of this singular vision. Like I did not take care of myself at all. And so like slowly extricating myself. And there's a million reasons you could psychoanalyze me, like I'm looking for family, because I don't have one. I'm looking for safety, for security. I just want to be loved. If I'm not throwing Kinky Salon anymore, if I'm not doing mission control anymore, will people still love me? Will people still want to be my family? Will they still invite me to things if I'm not constantly inviting them to my things? Or will I be alone,
And you're saying this like you could psychoanalyze me, but are these true statements? Like, did those resonate for you? Were those in your heart?
Absolutely. Oh. Absolutely. I know, poor little Polly.
I know.
She was pretty fucked up. she's pretty fucked up.
But also
you know,
pretty fucking amazing.
but the one thing, and this comes to another point of what I'm doing these days as well. The other thing that really kept me going throughout this entire thing was my yoga practice. So I've always been a daily yoga person since I was, in my 20s.
So you weren't taking care of yourself, but you were doing that, which I think counts. I think that's huge. Daily?
Yoga is the one thing that I manage to do somehow against all odds, against my neurospiciness and my lack of being able to be organized. I managed to keep a daily yoga practice that's so integrated into my life. I can't even imagine life without it. And so really what happened was I fulfilled a lifelong ambition, which I have never had time for or resources for, which is to become a yoga teacher. And so a couple of years ago, I did this yoga teacher training. And as anyone who has done a yoga teacher training knows, it's not about poses. They're not teaching you about asana. The first 100 hours are just basically self-development. And so, journaling and you're like looking at your life and you're breaking things down and you're understanding how, the principles of yoga can be applied to life and you're looking at yourself. And I just looked at myself and I thought, oof, it's time. It's time for your time. And so in doing that and in that self-reflection process, I realized that it was time to really take that big step back, to trust. So now, I teach yoga as well now.
Do you incorporate yoga into your writing retreats as well?
I do, yeah. That's the main reason that I started to think about doing yoga, because I wanted to do these writers' retreats. Actually, the full vision, if you want to know it.
I do. I want to know the full vision.
The full vision is a retreat center. That's the full vision. But we're nowhere near that right now. That's so much work. Oh my God. But the vision of living in a hot spring.
Wow. Yes.
So my retirement plan was always Harbin Hot Springs. I don't know if you know about Harbin Hot Springs. It's a hippie hot spring just north of San Francisco where they have a lot of residents. And I was like, one day I'm going to be an old lady and I'm going to do the workshops at Harbin Hot Springs.
Yes.
And then Harbin Hot Springs burned to the ground.
Well,
a few years ago.
A little too hot.
And it's been rebuilt, but it doesn't have that same expansive community that it used to have. And it's much more like being run like a business, which, for better or worse, I don't judge. But I'm just like, maybe I could do something like that, like not as big as Harbin, but something smaller. So that's really where the retreats came from, this idea that I would move into that space so that I could move toward that vision of my old age being living at a hot spring, running workshops.
You're manifesting it. I love it. So
one step at a time.
So back to the question about how your relationship with sex has changed. Like when you say you weren't taking care of yourself, did that include not taking care of yourself as a sexual being while you're making it so that all these other people are doing just that because of you?
Absolutely. I was working.
You were working.
I was working.
Did you have partners? Did you have?
Yeah, I had partners, but I very rarely played at the parties because I was working. Yeah. Because I was hosting the events. So I couldn't really drop everything to go play. I mean, I did. And particularly in the early days when we were a bit more wild and a bit more loose and a bit more free. There was this period of time at the beginning of Mission Control where we let people stay overnight, where it was just like a house party, really. And I, after a few years, realized how much the container needed to be supported in order for it to be safe. This is how we learned. There was no book on how to do this. There was no workshops on how to do this. There were other events that came before us. Of course, people have been being slutty for centuries. And we are a proud lineage of sluttiness. The people that came before us, Queen of Heaven parties and all kinds of stuff going on in the Bay Area when I arrived there. And we really stand on the shoulders of giants in the Bay Area. It is the home of the sexual revolution. But learning to create safer space, learning where to be loose and where to say, no, actually, that doesn't work here. And like learning all of that kind of what has become Mission Control and Kinky Salon required that I, instead of swimming with my head underwater in the pool, that I stood up, put my feet on the ground and looked at what was going on. And when I did that, there were a few other people doing that with me. I wasn't alone. And we saw each other like, I see you, I see you. And whenever there was a problem at Mission Control, I would see it and I would be like, something's amiss here. And I would look around and there would be somebody else looking. And they'd look at me and they'd go, and we triangulated on things.
Do you have an example?
Like someone's having an argument or someone's, too drunk or whatever it is, like just stuff that's happening around Mission Control, stuff that could be problems.
Trouble
and
brewing.
So we zoned in on problems. It was almost like psychic. Yeah. We didn't even have to. We'd just be like, something's happening in the next room. We got this psychic kind of connection to the parties and what was going on. We could feel it like a spider on the web.
So after you moved out of the building in 2012, did you start taking better care of yourself at that point?
Absolutely. That was the first step.
That
was the first step. And that was when I started like really writing the book. That was when I started writing the memoir, was when I had that space in my consciousness to be able to write. And it was all leading up to the goal, which was the world tour. So to start the Kinky Salons around the world and then to go visit them all. And that was like, what a life goal. Like one day I'm going to travel the world and go visit all the, these parties that I started in other cities around the world. And I'm going to go meet all of the people that I've only spoken to online. And, so that was like huge for me, that goal of making that happen.
And did you do it?
I did. Yeah.
Of course you did.
That was my book tour. So I went around the world and spoke at various places and visited all my kinky salons.
Pinecones, you might have heard my interview with Dr. Elliot Justin, founder of FirmTech, and if you did, you know all about how exciting the Tech Ring is. It's a health wearable that improves men's sexual performance and gives them priceless health data that can act as an early indicator of heart issues. Yeah. During sex, it keeps you hard and makes your orgasms crazy. And during sleep, it tracks your nocturnal erections, which can literally tell you if you have issues with your heart or hormone levels before they get really bad. This product saves lives and marriages. And I'm really excited to give you a 15% discount on any of FirmTech's products with code CLOSETED at checkout. In addition to the Tech Ring, they also have the Performance Ring, a non-tech cock ring that features a really cool hook and eye design to avoid having to shimmy the ring down the length of your cock, which, if you've tried that, it's not the sexiest. They also have the Ring Mate, a vibrating attachment that works with the Tech Ring and Performance Ring and can also be used on one's fingertips. Ooh la la. Get yours today by going to myfirmtech.com and using code CLOSETED at checkout. myfirmtech.com, code CLOSETED at checkout. You're welcome. Did you get the Grand Dame treatment everywhere you went?
I mean, kind of. There were some places where culturally it was just very different. And they had been doing Kinky Salon for a while, and maybe the people involved didn't even know me or who I was. And they've been doing this event for like 4 or 5 years. And all of a sudden I'm there going, hi, I'm the founder. And they're all like, who the fuck is this person? So I did get the Grand Dame treatment in some places, but in other places, I also got the kind of like sizing me up. I mean, I'm going to call out Copenhagen because they've always been
Do it. Call them out.
the most difficult. No, in Copenhagen, what they told me when I was there was like, if you're too enthusiastic, for example, when you watch a movie and you go and you leave the movie, if you say, I love that, that was great, people will think you're stupid, right?
They'd hate me there.
What you have to do instead, or, culturally, what is more kind of like expected is that you would say, I really loved the character building, but the dialogue kind of fell apart for me a little bit, particularly towards the end,
And
right?
that's if you love something.
You make even if you love it, so you make this commentary. And so when I was just like really enthusiastic, and because I'm a California love bomber, I'm just like, if you're looking at me weird, if you're like, I'm not sure about her, I just love bomb you. I love bomb you. It's the way through. Just more love, more love, more love, more love.
Yes.
And they were just like, what? This woman is not coming across well at all. And I was told, you're not coming across well at all. You need to stop just being so nice.
Oh, man. That's well, I don't know about Copenhagen then. I'm not sure I'd fit in there.
Oh no, it's a great city. It's a great city and a great scene and wonderful people. It's a great place, but it's just
cultural differences yeah. Were they whimsy maxing the parties appropriately?
Absolutely. Oh my God, they were
That's
amazing.
What matters.
Totally. Like they had this one theme where they were like it was an airport theme, and you go in costume according to wherever it is you're going on vacation. And the whole thing, when you're going through the all of the greeting process, you were going through security. And they were like, do we have consent to pat you down? It was so funny. I loved it. And then like Germany, like Berlin, where there's a sex party in every club in Berlin. Having sex at clubs isn't unusual at all in Berlin. It happens everywhere. Yeah. So they're kind of like, well, we kind of get this sex thing, but then like pulling them into the like, okay, we're not going to be taking a bunch of drugs here, and we're talking about consent a lot here. That was the stuff that was like, oh, this is new. Like the sex, everyone's having sex everywhere in Berlin. So it was like just the cultural differences were really interesting.
I feel like you've been on the cutting edge of taking sex parties and kink parties and sex positivity in general out of patriarchal frameworks. What I see when I look around the world is like so many people are trying to be free, are trying to free themselves in various ways across industries, across media. But most of the time you can see that they're trying to free themselves from within a constrictive, prescriptive patriarchal framework. So like you'll get swingers who are still super homophobic unless you're a woman, and still very misogynistic, and so many problems with consent. Historically, it is getting better, but only because of pioneers like you and sort of like spreading these ideas around the world that like it's important to treat women as people and to have consent, and bi men are okay too. Like all of these ideas are part of hopefully the new era that's going to be welcoming us all into its arms soon.
The sexual revolution is still going. Don't worry. Even though sometimes it looks pretty dire out there, like this is culture moving forward.
Yes.
And, it's almost like Mercury retrograde. Like it's not really going backwards.
Right. It just looks like it is. It's an illusion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you look over the long period, it's like, I always thought that the sexual revolution was kind of in the past, and that now we live in this kind of enlightened time, lucky us.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, that's not truth at all. And having spent a long time, the longevity of my career in sex culture gives me a really interesting perspective on it. And also the multicultural aspect of it, where I'm coming at it from different cultures. The conversation is bigger than just like a Bay Area play party. It is this kind of like bigger perspective, this more bird's eye view perspective. Yeah. And it's still changing and it's still moving, and young people are owning it in new ways.
Yes.
Like the conversation about gender, for example, like the complexity of non-binary gender, which wasn't even a conversation. It was just a point of confusion for most people who didn't quite fit in the gender binary. And now there's like a clear conversation happening about it. And that is like something, gender is one of these building blocks of culture, right? It's like man and woman, like the entire of the patriarchy depends on that definition. Without it, our whole patriarchal culture falls apart. And so, of course, the patriarchy is terrified of people saying that that isn't an absolute fact, right? That they say, well, there is men and women. Yeah, sure, you can, but also there's a whole other, and I feel like the reason it's terrifying to people is because it's a building block of culture. And people are like, well, what happens if you take the bricks apart? You can't take them. You can't, it's a building block. What are we going to do without that? And similarly with polyamory and family, right? You've got the nuclear family that's like the building block of capitalism. You've got the worker, the reproducer, and the new workers.
Yeah.
And that's a building block of capitalism. And really, like when you look at like tribal culture or matriarchal culture, it's not even the same shape. It's not a brick, it's something different. And so again, questioning the very blocks that construct culture, just by being slutty.
Just by being
I
slutty. I was going to say human beings are a lot more like jellyfish than like bricks.
Mm-hmm.
We're like fluid. We
Yeah.
can change shapes throughout our lives. And the way our world has developed and the patriarchal system and all that has tried so hard to just sort of like put everybody here. And we're not that. We're not that. We are wild. We are animals.
Mm-hmm.
We are creative and expressive.
Well, as technology changes, we don't need bricks to build houses anymore. We can 3D print houses. So
Yes.
let's start 3D printing our own, relationships to ourselves, to our sexuality, to our lovers, to our family, to culture itself. And the only thing is to be intentional, to be creative. And if you stay on that idea of like, I am going to approach my life, my relationships, my sexuality, my relationship to culture as if I'm an artist, like with every brushstroke has intention,
Yes.
then we can all interweave together, right? And we don't have to have these fixed, rigid structures anymore. It's the future. I really do believe that.
How do you relate personally to this conversation about gender and non-binariness and polyamory and all of these alternative relationship structures?
Yeah, interesting. So, on so many levels. There's a point in any community, in any tribe, in any group of people where it's our natural instinct to want to shun the outsider and look for people who are like us, right? It's very human to do that. And I think that after 25 years of throwing events and being polyamorous and being open, there was this idea for me of like, there's this one part of myself that I haven't actually explored, and that was celibacy. And so I decided to intentionally explore celibacy. And people were really kind of mad at me about it for a while.
Mad at you?
Well,
what
see,
business
this
is it of theirs?
well,
Mad
see,
at you?
this is the thing. Or like, not seeing the value in it, let's just say. Right? And, I think that people get really fixed in like, okay, we're polyamorous, everyone's slutty, this is really important for us because we feel safe around other people who are like us and blah, blah, blah. And then they get in that same mindset where it's like shunning people who aren't polyamorous, shunning people who aren't slutty, and acknowledging that our community does do this, that we're not immune to that kind of behavior. And so after my celibacy, I decided that I really just wanted to explore something that was a bit more meaningful in my life. Not that sex isn't meaningful, but I had just done it so much. I was just like, what else? What is different? What is new? And, it's hard to really go into succinctly, but, I'm always going to be a sexual adventurer, right? I'm always going to have that in my heart, in my spirit. There is no way that I'm ever going to live a life where I'm not making out with my friends. It is part of my DNA. and flirting and sitting on each other's laps and being in that space of sexual openness and exploring in that way feels so natural to me. I'm never letting that go. And at the same time, I have actually on that world tour that I went on, with my goal being to find a lover in every port, I just found one. The plan changed because he showed up in every port. So this man who is now my husband,
I
who
love
I live with, yeah. And, you know, it's a completely different kind of relationship to any relationship that I've ever had. Because what I realized as well in my early years, in this desire to be loved, this desire for everybody to want to take care of each other, to be friends, like I just really felt this need to bond, to be secure. Like I didn't feel secure in myself. And I was exploring all kinds of things with my kink, you know, just exploring, experiencing catharsis, moving through. And there's a point that I've reached in my life where I'm on a different path now. And I don't feel that urge anymore, you know? I don't feel that urge anymore to be so at that end of the spectrum. Like, so there's two, like everything is shades of gray, right? And we've got at one end, we've got like really extreme monogamy where all of your emotional needs are taken care of by one person, where even going out for lunch with somebody of the same gender would be like, it would be horrifying. Like to even have any relationships with anybody else, like all your emotional needs are met. And that is really the norm in our culture. Let's face it. Like
I think it's a
normal.
myth. I think it's a myth that the emotional needs are met, but yes, that
They're
is
not
the mythical
exactly
norm.
the goal.
Yeah.
Like, if only I could have that. Oh God,
Right.
please no. And then
Right.
at the other end of the spectrum, there's like real exploration and sluttiness and, you know, exploring it all, particularly for bisexual people and gender non-conforming people. Like there's so much to explore at that end. And that's where I spent most of my life, was at that end. And really, I've drifted more towards the center now between these two extremes. And I find that place, I feel like I'm not needing, I'm not yearning, I'm not like striving or hoping to be loved. You know, it's like I'm in a more stable place, in that centered place. And so that feels really good. And from this place as well, it's interesting. You're talking about gender as well. That conversation about gender has been such a journey for me as well, because when I wrote my book, it was before, I mean, people are non-binary. People have always been non-binary through history. People have always been trans through history. But this very public conversation about gender is new. It's like really new. And it's really like the idea of like, okay, at the beginning of every meeting, you say your pronouns, right? So people come into the meeting, they say, oh, I'm blah, blah, blah. And you say it and you go, Polly, she, her. And you're like,
Right. Right.
Never really fucking thought about that before.
I have had that moment. I've had that moment. I started identifying as non-binary during the pandemic, mostly because I just don't think that our culture's definition of womanhood is broad enough to encompass all that I am or all that any woman is.
Yes. I mean, on the one hand, we're pushing back against the patriarchy, right? And then on the other hand, there's something deeply ingrained in my, you know, tomboyness, in my not subscribing to femininity, that is, it's complex. And I didn't really realize that until we had to start saying, and then I started saying, you know what? If I was a teenager, I would totally be they them. I would so much be. There is no way. If I was a teenager now growing up, I'm non-binary, mum. Like, I would be like that. That's who I am. I'm sorry. Like, I know that that's what I would have said as a teenager. And that's what I started saying first. If I was a teenager, that's what I would say. And then it was actually the teenage non-binary kids that started to give permission to the parents. Like, I don't have children, but I know a lot of people who have non-binary children who are then like, oh, whoa. And it's actually their children who taught them, like, no, you can accept this too, if that's how you feel.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh, like the learning came from the generation below, right?
I
So
love
we
it.
are being mentored by the children about this stuff, because this is stuff that we didn't really think about, and that we have these really fixed ideas in our head about life. And, you know, I'm not one of the people who insists on being referred to as they, them. Like, it really doesn't bother me in the same way, because it's just never been that huge part of the story. But I tell you, when someone does do that, it makes me a little warm fuzzy inside. So, you know, it's one of those things. It's complicated. And even, see, I'm an unlabelable person. And so even the label of non-binary feels like a label that I don't want to take on, because I've always resisted labels. Same bisexual. That's not really, I mean, yeah, kind of. That's how I came out. But like, that was the only word we had in the 90s. So, you know.
Now we've got so many. We've got pansexual, polysexual, omnisexual.
And in a way, all of these labels are bringing a point where somebody refuses to be labeled. They're like, actually, no, you know what? That label doesn't work for me. And so there's a new label that's created. And so we all of a sudden have all of these labels. And then
I'm
it's kind of like,
kaleidosexual.
I mean, my favorite was always Annie Sprinkle's metamorphosexual.
Metamorphosexual. I never knew that. That's great.
I love that. I am defined by my changeability.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, I really enjoy the complexity of sexuality and of gender. And I really enjoy, and I've always inhabited that space before there were even labels or structures that allowed us to look at those and think about them. But I've always known that I'm not straight. And I'm not a normal girl.
I kind of don't think anyone's really straight, but that's a conversation for another day.
That's a very bisexual thing to say.
I know. We think everyone's bi. So, Polly, before we go, let's say I am a young slut who wants to write a memoir or a novel, and I'm interested in your writing retreats. What do I have to look forward to as an attendee of one of your retreats?
The retreats, okay, so the events that I've thrown over the years are, you know, these wild parties, right? And that's what I'm known for, this place to be free, to express yourself, to be wild. But the truth is, I am a sensitive introvert. Polly Superstar is a show.
Yeah.
Right? And after Kinky Salon, after Mission Control events, I have to go hide for a week. I'm not one of those true extroverts who gets fulfilled by that experience. When I'm tired, I hermit hard. And so this has been really against my nature all of these years. And I think that's one of the things that I really came to terms with recently. Like, to be in that persona is exhausting. And so at my retreats, so it's like a meditation retreat. So you come to the retreat, we have, you know, like a guided visualization. We're really moving with the body. Of course, it's all about the body and the somatic experience of writing, because the story resides in the body, not in the mind. And you have to unlock that connection between the mind and the body. Again, that's that yoga practice. To find the story that's residing in your flesh. It's in sensation, right? It's not just in the mind, it's in sensation. And so we do a little guided visualization, and then we go into silence, and people write, and we write together. And you can be working on whatever you're working on. I do guided visualizations to take you into memories, to take you into that place, whether it's imagined or remembered. And then you write from there, from being in the place, rather than being like, what am I going to think about? I'm going to write now. It's like, no, how does it feel in your body to be in that place? And so I do some of those little Kickstarters, and then it's mainly silence. And then when the meals come, we eat and we chat. And the rest of the time we're quiet. And I cook food for everybody, vegetarian food. And usually the retreats take place at some sort of hot spring. I've got one coming up in July. I'm not sure when this will come out, but
Probably early July.
yeah, so it'll probably be sold out by then, but there'll be more on the calendar. But it's worth checking. And that one is going to be actually by the river. Always involving water.
And what's the reason for that?
Well, because we're mermaids. When I was writing my book, I was working with a developmental editor who, you know, the cover had been designed, the Kickstarter had been done. I had already done my entire process. People were expecting the books and it wasn't finished. And she said to me, there's another step that needs to happen, one deeper step. And it was a complicated, difficult thing to do. It was beyond my capability as a writer. So I thought, I went to Harbin Hot Springs. I cried for 3 days in the water, just feeling like a failure. Like I can't do this. And then on day 4, I began to write. And so the power of water and soaking in water to relax the nervous system, to allow yourself to get over your own fears, get out of your own way. When you're like, oh God, I can't do this. Just get in water. That's the mermaid way. We call it the word flow.
Create safety in the body so that your creativity can be brought out.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's the same exact thing you need to do to bring out your sexual expression. Create safety
That's
in the
what
body.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
You see the parallels?
I do.
So it sounds like I've gone completely on a tangent with these writers' retreats, but actually it's the same work.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. Polly, where can people find you?
You can find me at withmermaids.com. That's my website. Or my Instagram is pollywordflow. And that's Polly with 2 L's because it is my real name.
Thank you. I actually was curious about that. I was like, is that part of the persona? And
I was born Polly.
You have yes, and you have a free offering for anybody interested in knowing a little bit more about how you work with writers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, you can. That's on my website and on my Instagram page. It's basically just a little 3-day course to help you to understand how to connect to the body and to use the body as a way of opening up your writing, to get out of thinking so much and get into the body for your writing, which is really the approach that we do at Writing with Mermaids. And that's just a little free 3-day course that you can download from my website.
A free 3-day writing course. Go get it right now with mermaids.com. I do the same thing. I teach acting classes, and it's very much the same thing. If you're thinking about acting, you're not acting. You got to be in your body. You've got to feel safe in your body first. We do all this meditation and relaxation stuff. And then once there's safety in the body, you can express with your body. All art resides in the body. All expression resides in the body. Like, this is the instrument. I just love what you do. I love your whole philosophy. I love your creativity. I love the way you followed your heart and your dreams and your callings and your intuitions. I find you very inspiring, and I hope to attend one of your retreats one day.
I hope to see you there too.
Yes, we would
awesome.
have a blast. My partner and I are both writers, and we love hot springs. So
okay,
we got to get it. We got to get to one.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much for talking to me today, Polly. It's really
a pleasure.
Been an honor. Thank you.
Feeling so alive. So long till those sorry days. Yeah, bye.
If you would like to work with Polly, again, that website is withmermaids.com. And if you'd like to read Polly's memoir, Polly, Sex Culture Revolutionary, go to pollysuperstar.com, buy the book directly from Polly. They will sign it and they will mail it to you themselves. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. I am so happy right now. I feel ready to go right up a storm. There is such a connection between sexuality and creativity. my entire life, I have felt that connection so strongly. When I am feeding myself sexually, I am more creative. When I'm feeding myself creatively, I'm more sexual. And also, these things are fluid. There are periods where we, just like the earth, have to hibernate and be fallow for a while. And then there are periods where we spring forth and we bear all this beautiful fruit. And what I love about Polly's story is that throughout their life, they have allowed those seasons to happen. They have listened. They've listened to the signs. They've picked up the breadcrumbs, and they've made choices that from the outside looking in might seem insane. Like, you're going to build this thing for 25 years and then walk away to host writing retreats? What? But that's exactly what we should all feel free enough to do if it's what serves our spirit the most. So, okay, I'm done. I'm done waxing rapturous over how much I love Polly Superstar. Okay. The normal stuff. If you'd like to support the show, I am doing this all by myself and all for free right now. So your dollars would really help me. If you're getting something out of this and you want to support me financially, head over to sammyamounts.substack.com and become a paying subscriber to my Substack. In addition to supporting the show and all the good karma and happy feelings inside you'll get from that, you'll also get access to all of my essays. I have a bunch of essays over the years. I release new essays every Friday, sometimes Saturdays, because I have ADHD and I don't always get it done on time. But every week I release an essay. Half of them are free and half are behind paywalls. The paywalled essays are the juiciest, most personal, most vulnerable ones. So become a paying subscriber, sammyamounts.substack.com. You can also send a direct financial donation via Venmo or Cash App. Venmo, I'm sammya.mounts. Cash App, I'm Sammya Mounts. If you want to support the show, but you don't have dollars to put forward, or you don't want to put your dollars forward, which is fine. I get it. We all have a million subscriptions these days. I understand. You can still support the show by leaving a review, 5-star review, write something about what you like about the show on whatever platform you're listening on, especially Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Because on those platforms, when there are new reviews popping up all the time, the algorithm is like, ooh, people like the show. Let's push it out to more people. It actually makes a huge difference. So if you've been listening for a while, but you've never left a review, I get it. You're in the car, you're doing dishes, you're doing stuff. Like, I get it. It's like a pain in the ass. There's one more thing to do on a screen, but please consider doing it for me. Just this once, just so people can find the show. I really appreciate it. Another thing you can do to support the show without spending money is share an episode with a friend that you think it might help. Share an episode on your social media. Let people know what you liked about it. That really helps spread the show to new listeners too. And I appreciate every review, every comment, every share. You can also DM me or email me. I am on Instagram at sammya.mounts. The show is on Instagram and TikTok at Happy Slutcast, but I see every comment and I see every DM. You can email me at happyslutcast@gmail.com with your pitches, your questions, your concerns. If you want my advice on something, I do advice episodes here and there. If you want to share a story of your own sexual liberation, you can record it in a voice note or write it in an email and send it to me, and maybe I'll share it on the show one day. So be in touch with me. My whole thing is I want to help everybody to get as expansive and free and zero fucks given with truly expressing who they really are and what they really desire in their lives. I want to help all of you live your lives as an art piece so that at the end you can look back and be like, I have no regrets. I did exactly what I wanted to do. That's what I want for you. So let's do it together. Let's be in touch. Talk to me. All right. That's it for this week. I think you can tell that I'm like pretty glowy. That was such a fun interview. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another fun, saucy, flirty conversation on Happy Slut. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Go get some pleasure this weekend. And yeah, that's it. Bye, sluts.